So now that you have engaged with a couple of our slides as it relates to your go, no go decision making as a nonprofit, as well as assessing the grant fit and organizational readiness, we want you to take a moment to reflect and take some time to evaluate your nonprofit capacity and write down which of these areas can you begin to improve maybe as soon as tomorrow, right? Because you have a community that you need to assess and that needs their needs met, as well as taking this time to reflect and focus on the strengths before creating to fill the gaps. So, really, what that breaks down to is being sure that you are not only just being proactive, but be mindful of your reactiveness as a nonprofit as well, so that we minimize burnout and also analysis paralysis. So, yeah, Anthony, tell us a little bit about, even in like your experience, what are some areas of a nonprofit where they can begin to improve to assess the proper grant fit as soon as tomorrow, where it doesn't require a lot of planning?
That's a great question. I think in a nonprofit space, the people are the greatest resource for an organization. Folks come to a nonprofit because they are mission aligned. They see an issue in their community that they want to help address, and like we've been saying in other conversations, like they have so much institutional and community knowledge. It's really great to leverage and incorporate into your grant writing and just the overall direction of your agency. You don't want to become untethered from the community you're serving as you get more aligned with funders, rely on your board. You want to make sure your organization is grounded in reality. And like we had mentioned before, when you engage, your staff for funding opportunities, maybe there's room to grow for some of the folks, in your staff. And I love how you said that we don't want to get analysis paralysis. We want to start with our strengths. We had mentioned in a previous presentation to challenge that scarcity mindset. And it's all too common in nonprofits. We're all resource constrained. We all would love a nice fancy truck. We all would love a nice big new computers, new building, but we don't have that reality. So it's easy to kind of get cynical, get pessimistic, but looking at those resources and see what can happen when we roll up our sleeves, I think that's a great place to start and really can open the door for where we kind of begin and what are untapped areas of potential, of capacity that we can dive into a little bit more.
Absolutely. That's a really great point. Because also in considering minimizing burnout and analysis paralysis, when it comes to go, no go decision making, it's definitely something where you have to be intentional in terms of the calendar, but also intentional in terms of where you are with capacity of your staff. So when you're having these meetings about whether or not this grant or that grant is a great fit, are you properly asking the right questions? Because what I've seen a lot in these go, no go decision meetings is there has been a heavy focus on where are we right now as an organization, meaning what's working, which program, which community. Because when we say community, specifically in this area of nonprofit food insecurity, we're talking about neighborhoods all the way down to the block. And these are the conversations that are being had internally from a go, no go decision, because there may be a grant that comes up where what they're looking for in the grant application doesn't fit where you are, but you're headed there. Yes, it's a tough decision to say, I guess that's a no then. That may be a no, but again, with the scarcity mindset that you mentioned, saying no makes room for what you can say yes to, though.
Yeah.
And actually get the grant, as opposed to just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks.
I agree. And there's this concept of mission creep where, maybe a funder is like 80-70% aligned with what your organization does, but then to kind of get over the top, you're like, oh, we can also open a mobile pantry or just like, jump through these hoops to be more attractive to a funder. But then when they cut the check, you got to cash it. So you got to make sure that you're able to, go through with that. And I think, what you're saying is really key, where that, time is a resource, and, making sure that you're aligned with a foundation, aligned with a programmatic opportunity. You don't want to, dig yourself another hole that's going to strain your staff resources even more. And so just being really intentional and making sure that this funding opportunity, this grant is a good fit for where your organization's at.
Absolutely. And then also we've been talking heavily throughout this course about RFAs. There is an opportunity when you're engaging with particularly like those government fundings for like the bid process and going to those events that they have where you can ask questions about the process of applying for the grants. That's an excellent opportunity for folks to be asking, what does the annual reporting look like, or what is the reporting relationship look like, so that when you're having your go, no go decision meetings with your internal staff, you're able to identify if you even have time to not only meet what the funder's requiring, but also so that it doesn't take away from what is working with your organization, meaning servicing the needs of the community.
Definitely. And I think the last thing I would add is, you talk a lot about looking forward, thinking about where your agency is going. I think looking at that past performance and that data is also really key, where I think it's really impressive when you can communicate to a funder, how much you've increased or decreased services in certain areas. And, funders are looking to make an impact, but I think they're also looking to learn a little bit more about the community and the community needs. And if it's really powerful when you can tell a funder that, we're really proud to say that we've had a reduction in like 40% of clients looking for housing. Maybe we've seen an increase in food, but we've seen a decrease there. And I think that helps deepen the relationship with funders. It helps them know that you're giving a really accurate, forthright representation of what your needs are, what your program's trying to address. And it might in the long term help influence what that funder looks to fund in the future.
Absolutely. And to that end, the relationship component is important. When you're having these go, no go decision meetings, make sure that you're checking in with your internal team as far as the status of the relationship with the funders. In these meetings, I've seen folks be able to really identify, oh, we haven't talked to this organization or this foundation or this representative of this funding entity in a while. And because folks are tracking that, it better helps them to know which organizations or funders that they're able to cultivate stronger relationships with, because you may have a really great relationship with one, and now it's time to put that on pause because it's going really well and direct your attention and divert it to one that you haven't engaged with in a while. So continue to reflect on these points that we've talked about, especially as it relates to evaluating your nonprofit capacity. Make sure, again, friendly reminder, that you are writing down which of these areas can you begin as your nonprofit to improve on as soon as tomorrow, right? As well as focusing on strengths before creating to fill the gaps so that we minimize burnout and analysis paralysis. And you're in a cohort. Continue to engage with one another, share resources, and share impact. It matters.